Welcome to Lesson 4, the basics of working with Photoshop. In this lesson, you'll find out how you can combine images, how you can understand the document settings, and how to remove simple backgrounds, and also how to save your files when you're done. To start this, I'm going to choose File, Browse and Bridge, and that takes me into Adobe Bridge, where I've navigated to my PS04 Lessons folder, and now I can see thumbnails of my images. I can select all three of these images by either clicking and dragging across them or holding down the Shift key and clicking on all three. I'm going to launch CS4 Photoshop by double-clicking on these, and they all open up. And I am now going to click and hold on the Arrange Documents button up here in the application bar and just tell it to float my windows. And I just prefer this method just so I can see everything that's going on at the same time. You might have to do this in all the Windows operating systems in order to float your windows, otherwise they may be tabbed across the top as a default. Now the first thing I'm going to do is just explain how you can tell the resolution of your images. And keep in mind that when you are working with images and you're combining them, that knowing the resolution before you start combining them is a pretty good idea. Mostly because if you take a 300 dpi image and you drop it into a 72 dpi image, you get a monster image. The scale is off. Now how you can tell, hold down your Alt key and click down here in the lower left hand corner. You can see that this particular image is 72 pixels. I can come over to my KHÓA image and I can see that this is also 72 pixels, but it's also giving me the width. So you can see that this is 859 pixels, and if this is also 885, that means if I drop this KHÓA in here, he's probably going to take up the whole entire area. If you want to change the image size prior to creating the composite, you can do that. You can do it either way, either after cutting and pasting an object or after dragging one image into another, or you can do it prior to entering the image. So in this particular file, I'm going to choose image size, and maybe I only want this to take up maybe 20% or so of the barn image. So I'm going to type in here that I want this to be 200 pixels wide. Click OK. Reduces it down. I'm going to cut and paste this image just so you can see both methods of combining images. I'm just going to select all, Control A or Command A, copy, Control or Command C, and paste. Click back on this image, Control or Command V, and there's my image. You can see it fits in a little bit better, can probably be sized a little bit more, but we'll work on that in a bit. Now the second method for combining images is simply taking your Move tool and clicking and dragging one image into another. So you'll notice that when I click on this cow and I drag it over, that a plus sign appears on the Windows operating system. A grayed out image may appear on the Mac OS. And when I release, voila, there is my monster cow. Now I'm going to transform this by using Control T, and on the Mac that would be Command T, and just scale this down. Now I'm holding my Shift key down and grabbing a corner, and I'm visually scaling this. Press my Enter key when I'm happy, or my Commit button up in the options bar. And now we've got the cow in a box and the rooster in the box. And by the way, if you hold down your Control key on the Windows operating system or the Command key on the Mac operating system, you can automatically select the layers that you click on if you want to rearrange these. Now the next thing I'm going to do is get rid of this white background. So I'm just going to click and hold on my eraser tool, and there's this great little magic eraser tool that's hidden in the Tools panel. And if I simply come out to the cow image, click on it, the background disappears. I am going to Control click on the rooster and do the same thing for that. And make sure I've got a hold of that guy. In fact, let me close up these images just so you can see my layers panel a little bit better. And you can see that I didn't actually select my rooster. That's why it didn't work. Click on it now. Now this is great for web graphics. If you're doing selections and creating masks, probably the best way to do that, of course, is with better selection tools like the pen tool. But for what we're showing here, this is fine. I'm going to zoom in, just pressing Z to get the zoom tool. Click in a little bit, and you'll see that does an okay job, but not certainly something that would be at a professional level. Now, what I'm going to show you next, though, is something that can kind of help this as you're working in here. Sometimes you get a little bit of a rough edge around here, and what can help you to fix that is by simply selecting the layer that you want to repair the edges of and choose Layer, Matting, Defringe. Just leave it at 1, and you'll see that it cleaned up the edge just a bit. Now, I'm going to go ahead and press Control 0, and that is Fit in Window. Open this up a little bit. Take my type tool, and I'm going to type some really descriptive text here. And the text is going to be Big Red Barn, just in case you didn't know. Now, that text is tiny, black, can't see it. I'm going to do a Control A. I'm going to press Control Shift greater than. Now I can resize visually this way, but note that you can also hold down your Control key or your Command key on the Mac OS and just slide this little slider in the text area too. And I still can't really see the text. I'm going to click on the color bar and just tell it that I want white text for this. Now keep in mind that it's showing me the text in reverse mode, which can be difficult when you're trying to find the size and the font and such. You can press Control H or Command H and it'll hide that, even though that text is still selected. So if I come up here and I just select the Typeface Myriad Pro, I can now press the arrow key down or up, and it takes me through my typefaces so that I can see the different fonts that I want to choose from without actually committing to it immediately. Now, I've gotten this far. Let's say that I am really happy with this and I want to save this file. Just a quick discussion on formats. When you choose File Save As, you have lots of formats to choose from. Typically, if you're going to another application that's in the Creative Suite, you want to save it in the Photoshop format. That is the native format. It supports transparency, it supports layers, and then you can take advantage of those features in other applications like InDesign and Illustrator. If it's going to the web, you can choose JPEG or GIF. If it's going to a non-Adobe application, you may choose TIFF, or you might choose Photoshop EPS. And again, that might be if you're going to PowerPoint. Now, what you can also do, which is kind of nice, is you also can choose Photoshop PDF. And that way, somebody can look at this, whether they have Photoshop or not. And then you can still open it in Photoshop as well. So if I were to choose Photoshop PDF, the benefit to this is, first of all, I can send this to anybody that needs to see the image. But the second benefit is when I choose to save this file as a PDF, it also supports, that's okay, say okay to that message, it also will support my vector text. And keep that in mind when you're saving anything where you have created vector shapes or have used type tools and you want to support that vector. What you want to make sure of is that you save that in one of three formats, either the Photoshop format or the EPS format or PDF format. And then when somebody else opens this, the text looks great, no matter what size it is, no matter what scale it is, so you don't have to worry about that breaking down at a later point.